Yo, it's Elut again. I made a video about what skills you should use against the Black Knight in Fire Emblem Path of Radiance, FE9. And before watching this video, I do recommend that you watch that video first, because I'm not going to recap everything I said in that video, and this is directly building off of that video. So I'll have that in the cards, I'll have it in the description, all that good stuff. So watch that first. If you've seen that, then cool, I'm glad you're here. We're going to talk about some other things I didn't touch on in the first video. And the main thing I didn't touch on in the first video was hit rates. And the reason I didn't talk about it was because, one, I wanted to look at the skills in a vacuum. But two, the Black Knight's hit rates on Ike and Ike's hit rates on the Black Knight are usually very high, but rarely are they ever perfect. I think I've seen them be perfect before, but it depends on little things. Like, so for example, Ike's speed cap is 28, but if you have at least 24 speed, that's enough to fight the Black Knight and not like insta-lose, because you're not being doubled by him. No matter what, you're not going to double him. So things like that, like if you're somewhere between 24 and 28 speed, that can mess with your avoid, which in turn messes with the Black Knight's hit rate on you, and as well as how many luck stat level ups Ike got throughout the playthrough can also, sort of change that. Generally speaking, though, I've never seen the Black Knight's hit rate go below around a 65 or so displayed hit, and I've seen it as high as about 90. So you can assume that most of the time you're going to get hit, because remember, displayed hit in this game is always going to be lower than the true hit numbers, because FE9 is on 2RN. So, if it says 65 hit from the Black Knight, it probably means, somewhere higher up. I forget the exact true hit numbers, but it's probably more around like 70 or so. That goes for any hit rate above 50. So I didn't talk about that last time, and I would like to touch on it a little bit, because this isn't, just Wrath Nile propaganda against Aether. I wanted to be fair as much as possible and give you a little bit more insight. So if we assume that the Black Knight does not have perfect hit rate, then we can maybe mess around with, okay, what happens in these strategies, in these examples, if the Black Knight misses one time? And that varies depending on the strategy. And I'm not also going to talk about if Ike misses, because if Ike misses, that's just straight up unlucky, first of all, but that can happen regardless of your skills. Wrath, Nile, and Aether all don't affect your hit rate whatsoever. That can happen no matter what you do. So that sort of balances out. They cancel each other out. But the Black Knight missing can change the outcome a little bit depending on your strategy. So from the first video, we talked about this. This is like the standard Wrath Nile setup with 58 or more HP. We also talked about lowballing Ike's HP, and then we talked about Aether with a 54 HP threshold. So I'll start with Wrath first. If the Black Knight misses Ike at some point in Wrath Nile, how bad does it look for us? So we can assume that, let's say, on enemy phase 1, the Black Knight doesn't hit Ike, and instead of having 20 HP at the end and getting his first Wrath chance, he's at 39 and will only do 9 damage. That's bad. That means we potentially only have 3 more chances for Wrath. If that's the case, then the probability of success from then on is exactly 50%, because we have to hit 2 Wrath crits out of 3 instead of 2 Wrath crits out of 4. So that can be a little worse. Still higher than Aether's base success rate, by the way, but it's 50% exactly. And we'll pull up this calculator just so you can see, just so you believe me. I'm not cheating. So let's say the Black Knight fucks us over on one enemy phase and doesn't hit us into Wrath. Then we only have 3 Wrath chances, but we still need to hit 2. Which means, yeah, if we hit 2 or more, which is our success rate, is exactly 50%. If we hit less than 2, exactly 50%. So it's a 50-50 shot if we miss one of these Wrath chances based on the Black Knight missing us. Not in terms of Ike missing the attack, but in terms of the Black Knight knocking us down into that HP threshold. If the Black Knight misses, let's say, on enemy phase 4, after we just elixired on player phase 4, so assume everything before that is exactly the same. And in my Ike solo run that I'm currently doing on this channel, this actually happened. We went Wrath Denial with all the stats I mentioned in the other video, and 58 or more HP, and we got to player phase 4, and I elixired, and we had hit 1 Wrath crit already. So the Black Knight missed on enemy phase 4, so we were stuck at 58 HP going into player phase 5. But that didn't matter, because we can still attack on player phase 5. He hits us down to 39 instead of 20, and then enemy phase 5, he hit us again, brought us down to 20. That's Wrath range. And then we hit our second Wrath crit, and we won. So it was all good. So the success rate is the same at 69. If the Black Knight misses, let's say, on enemy phase 3, then we actually get a 5th chance of Wrath that matters, because, as I said in the other video, this 5th chance of Wrath, when you're lowballing Ike's HP, when you're making him get 2-shot, does not matter. That will not save the run at all. So you essentially only have 4, and that'll matter in a second. So if the Black Knight misses, let's say, after player phase 3, we use a Vuln, we're at 21. If he misses here, we get our 3rd Wrath, we can Vuln again, and then he'll hit us, get our 4th Wrath, and then we can Vuln again and still survive for potentially a 5th one, and we'll still only need to hit 2. That means that we will be attacking on player phase 1 less time, but it doesn't really matter, because the worst case scenario number at the very end, if we never Wrath crit, is 36 HP. A Wrath crit is a plus 18 damage modifier. 18 times 2 is 36. So we still need to hit 2 Wrath crits, but we have 5 chances now instead of 4. So that could be a lucky Black Knight miss, as opposed to an unlucky one, which would give us like a 50-50 probability. If this is the case, Wrath chance is the same, but instead we have 5 chances to do it. We still only need 2 crits. That brings us to an 81.25% success rate, which is pretty damn high. And then a quick note again about the lower HP strat. I have come to the conclusion that this is worse. And the reason why this is worse is because if we assume the Black Knight hits you every single enemy phase, then the success rate is exactly the same as the original Wrath Nile example. But if the Black Knight misses at some point, at any point with this strategy, the 38 HP strategy, we are now down a Wrath chance, and our success rate tanks to 50%. Because again, this Wrath 5 does not matter. You're not going to hit enough damage by that point, even if you Wrath crit on the 5th one if you've only hit one previously. While with the 58 HP setup, if you do get a lucky miss, your success rate actually goes higher. This strategy doesn't have that possible boon, but it has that possible drawback. They both have the drawback of a bad miss, and it goes to 50% success. On average, there's 69%, and with higher HP Wrath Nile, you have the possibility of it being even more of a lock. So that's interesting. With Aether, we'll go to Aether now. As I said, we need 2 Aether procs. Usually. If the Black Knight misses, then we actually only need potentially 1. And the reason for that is if he misses on an enemy phase where we just used an elixir prior, like let's say he misses on enemy phase 2, then our minimum number here at the end, if we don't Aether a single time, is 27. Aether is a plus 27 damage modifier, so we'll only need to hit 1 more Aether. So if the Black Knight misses on enemy phase 2, 3, or 4, essentially, not enemy phase 1, if he misses enemy phase 1, we're probably still at 35 and we'll have to heal. That really doesn't help us out much. But if he misses on enemy phase 2, 3, or 4, then our success rate goes to 79, which is actually a pretty sizable jump. And just, again, so you don't think I'm lying about the numbers. We still have the same number of chances to hit Aether in this scenario, but if the Black Knight misses on enemy phase 2, 3, or 4, we only need 1 Aether instead. So we're here at 79 success rate. So that's interesting. And I guess the conclusion here is that if the Black Knight misses at the right time, your probability of success can go up. It can go down with Wrath, or it can stay unaffected with Aether, like if he missed enemy phase 1, that wouldn't change anything. You'd still be with this yucky 41% number. But it can be good for Aether, or neutral, and it can be good, neutral, or bad for Wrath. So, I guess, did I change my mind looking at this? And I would have to say no. I would still say that if you're by yourself and you don't have Mist, I still recommend Wrath Nile, because worst case scenario, Aether is 41. Worst case scenario, generally speaking, with Wrath Nile is 50. And best case scenario, Aether is like 79. And best case scenario with Wrath Nile is 81. So the highs generally speaking, are higher with Wrath Nile, and the lows are also generally higher with Wrath Nile. We could get into some really complicated numbers if the Black Knight missed even more times, but you gotta remember that although this is a sizable increase in reliability for Aether, the odds of the Black Knight missing are also very low, and most likely they're even lower than you proccing a second Aether to begin with. So I don't want anyone to walk away from this and go, oh yeah, well Aether's just way better than, huh, idiot? It's like, no, not really, because the miss you're relying on is way less likely than the hit you're relying on up here with Wrath Nile. Just my opinion. Play however you like to play, of course. Whatever you decide to do is cool. But I don't know. I like to obsess over these stupid numbers for some reason. It's just fun to me, and no one talks about it enough. And with all the misinformation out there, it kind of bugs me too. So I like to talk about it. Maybe teach someone something new. So yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.